Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to say that these are really interesting times, really interesting times. And it's always good, to see young people come out just to learn a thing or two about Web3. My guys are here, and I'm sure we are going to kill this whole, where do we go from here? Crypto in Africa, CeFi meets DeFi. Where do we go from here? The crypto winter has been blowing, right? But yes, we have people, still come out because they are curious, and we are going to be putting a lot of these to rest. I'm going to be asking them questions, and then we'll give you, the time to also come up and ask questions. So my guys, how are they?
Fine.
Okay, so my first question goes to you, Brian.
Okay.
Right? So,
Okay.
just for context, right? What is decentralized finance in the real sense of the word? And do you think that it holds the power to liberate Africa economically?
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, decentralized finance, as the name goes, decentralized finance, it's a breakaway from the traditional banking systems that the world is currently used to. So usually for payments to go through from daily transactions, you have to go through governments, banks, but with DeFi, we're breaking through that barrier. It's one-on-one, vendor-client one-on-one. So it's easy to say that it's going to change the economic atmosphere in Africa. It's very easy to say, but it's harder to achieve. And that's why I want to give a shout out to every developer here, every creator that's been putting in work in this ecosystem, because it's a lot of work every day. We in Africa, especially Nigeria, we're facing one new regulation or the other, so we're fighting every day. I was having a conversation backstage. It's a battle, okay? But I still think that it's not something we should easily give up on. The challenges we face challenge from government regulations and even the people, because some people are so used to the traditional system that there is this bad press about when you talk about crypto. There's this general assumption that you're talking about just Bitcoin, and people need to know that you're talking about trading, and people need to know that it's beyond trading. When you talk about blockchain, people think that, oh, these people are talking about crypto, oh, crypto is a scam, we get all sorts of things. But so I think that we builders, we need to put a lot of time in education, because you can't have adoption without education. So but I think if we can achieve a lot of education, then we'll get more people coming into this industry, not just as observers or people doing transactions. They'll also be builders too. And for for me, that's where we'll start seeing that growth, when everybody or most of the people are part of this industry. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So usually when we do research, right, you find that it's often said that LATAM, Asia, and Africa are important markets for blockchain and crypto. What's your take on that? Why do you think that is? And what is the roadmap for Bitmama, given the answers that you'll be sharing with us?
Well, when people talk about Africa and Asia being markets, I think they refer most of the time to our population. But in retrospect, 10% or 5% of 200 million people into crypto is a lot more. It's more number than say 50% of South America, because population. You feel so. For Bitmama, our roadmap is we have a policy where we say catch them young. It's not like we're totally giving up on the older generation, but we feel that there's this strategy. I don't want to mention the name of this bank. They did it, a Nigerian bank. I don't want to mention their name. An African bank, actually. They went to schools and they met students that were just getting into school, and they were creating zero free accounts for them, zero deposit accounts rather. And these students have graduated, becoming big boys and big girls in different industries, and they are still using that bank. So they plan for the future. So our roadmap is to also plan for the future. We want to start with the much younger generation. We might feel like maybe they do not have the capital or the liquidity to. If you're looking at profits, you can say hey, these people do not have the liquidity to have that volume of transactions that would lead to profits, maybe from a company's perspective. But you also need to know that these students, these young people, they will definitely become older. They will look back and say, oh, these people came to me when I was a student, and now I have this, I have that. It's time to keep doing business with them. So our strategy is to catch them young. I'll put it that way. Yeah.
Awesome stuff. Hi, Alice. Do you see a cross between DeFi and CeFi? And by CeFi, I mean traditional, banking systems. Do you see a cross? And could you share reasons why you think there might be a possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Brian alluded to this, right? We are at around 53 million crypto adopters in Africa. It's about 16% of global crypto adoption. About 320 million people globally use crypto. And if you think of how do we get from that to a critical mass, in Africa right now, in our context, 495 million telco subscribers, 456 million bank people. So, and Brian Armstrong at Coinbase said this, right? If we're gonna go from 300 million crypto adopters to 1 billion, we have to work with the fiat rails. And you have crypto purists, I love them, in the DeFi space. And then you have a few of us in the middle, including Yellow Card, right? We don't view crypto as a religion. Crypto is a tool to solve basic financial problems. And to solve basic financial problems, you have to meet people halfway, right? You have to work with regulators. You have to meet them halfway. And I think for us, with many crypto players on the continent, you just have to find a way to make sure there is the right management so you don't end up in like a Celsius situation or BlockFi, right? And rely on the technology and keep the technology first. And again, look at crypto as how do you solve basic problems? And we'll get to it, right? How do you move money cross-border seamlessly? How do you not pay 10% to send money to your family? How do you, as many fintech companies here, right? I struggle to pay my AWS bills, my Datadog bills, my Cloudflare bills, whatever it is, because I don't have access to dollars. Nigeria right now, when I moved in 2016, I could get $1 for 200 naira. Today it's 728, right? That's almost 3x depreciation in the currency. If you made $10,000 in Nigeria back in 2016, today you make $2,500. So how do you solve these problems for people and meet them halfway, leveraging this technology? And that's where a lot of us have work to do.
Awesome. So I stumbled upon a very interesting research yesterday. And, it says that the time of the research, South Africans that holds crypto stood at 4 million. Yeah? What is, Yellow Card's grand vision in that space? What's in it for you? What's the big picture for Yellow Card? Capturing that market.
South Africa is a big and important market, so is Ghana for us, so is Nigeria. Nigeria is much larger than South Africa. We operate in 16 countries. We have employees in 21 countries, so we're in countries where we're not yet operational, South Sudan being one of them, Tunisia. We're in a lot of markets. We're probably the largest reach on the continent. And for us, like South Africa, like Ghana, like Nigeria, every market is different. And for us, the strategy is boots on the ground, guerrilla marketing, education, and again, solving different people's problems, right? You go to a market like, let's say Ghana here, right? Which is very different from, say, South Africa, where there's, for example, no mobile money. How do you get local payment methods that work for people? How do you educate people where they are and meet them and solve their problems? So South Africa is a big market for us. I live in South Africa. I love South Africa. But it's a very, very different demographic to other parts of the continent. And for us, the idea, again, like I said, is how do we get from 53 million to 500 million? And that requires going across the continent. And for us at Yellow Card, we have ambitions to be on every single country in the continent and to solve people's problems.
Awesome. So let's start with you a bit more. Yeah, just sharing the yellow card story and your progress so far, your success story. What would you say would be or have been the biggest blocker to scale? Right? We know that Africa is a very let's say the regulations or regulatory landscape is kind of slippery, right? And not what we want it to be as at now. So beyond regulation, right? What's the biggest blocker? Because I keep hearing regulation. Yeah, but we know that there are other blockers. Yeah, what are these blockers per you, yellow card?
I was going to say regulation. I don't know, Lasberry, what else are our problems? I mean, we just raised our Series B. We're super excited, $40 million. Number one, we've raised the highest and the most money on the continent. And when we think of that, definitely regulation is one of them. I think everyone feels the pain around tech talent. You have the big guys who will go unnamed, who are poaching our incredible developers. So another thing that keeps up at night is how do we compensate and how do we keep our talent, right? And how do we compete with these big boys and girls in Silicon Valley. So I think that's probably the second biggest problem that we're trying to solve is how do we pay top of market and retain and give people equity, make them feel like they're building something and not have them go to Germany or Ireland or San Francisco or wherever, yeah. And for us at Yellow Card, we pay people crypto. 80% of our volumes are USDT. All our employees in Nigeria, most of them, the few who decide to still be paid in Naira, which I don't understand why, are paid in USDT, right? So I think for us, that is a competitive advantage that we have. And we hope that, apparently we're top of market too. So yeah, that's a big thing too.
Great. Well done, Alice. Mara, how are you? Let's talk about adoption, right? I mean, I am notorious for saying adoption is here, should I say it? Whether they like it or not, adoption is here, really, right? But what, for you, I know I looked into, your business and what it is you do, and I see that it serves as a stopgap, to kind of educate crypto newbies or crypto virgins or blockchain virgins. What are the biggest blockers to adoption as per you?
Okay, personally, and looking at the company like Mara, I think for DeFi, to get DeFi adoption here in Africa, in Nigeria, aside the whole regulation problem, I think the two major ones, like you said, education part and as ease to funding for startups, like, the new youngsters who actually want to go into the DeFi world. Now, for the aspect of education now, almost everyone is building one project or the other. They are building one thing or the other. They'll say, yes, they are bringing it into the market for people to invest in. It's solving one problem. But then again, everyone keeps selling these products to the same set of people. And they keep one side, like there's this group of people in Africa that would say people haven't really touched. Like those that, I don't know how to place it, the right words to use, because I don't want to use wrong words. Like, there are some people who don't even know how to properly use an internet. There are some people who don't even know about blockchain. They've never heard of the blockchain. So I think education in the aspect of, let's go back to these people, let's educate them, let's let them know that, oh, there is actually this technology here. Because there is no way DeFi can scale if it's the same set of people we keep bringing these products and these projects to. Now, aside the youngsters, we also have the regulators, of course. Like education, they also need it because most of them, they don't really understand this thing and how it works. So you just see someone who just wake up one day and is bringing one new info like they're banning this, they're banning that. But that's simply because it doesn't really understand how well you can use it. Because, like she said, most people tend to think blockchain or DeFi is just crypto. But they don't know that they can actually build several other tools, like so many innovations on the blockchain. So I feel like if these people are educated properly, they get to understand and know there is a lot more than this than just trading, then they will be willing to even want to come into it. And then you see that that's the first step for scaling. Now, the second part where I said lack of is to funds. That's like people who have ideas, for example, they have these ideas, but they don't know the right people to sell these ideas to, or to fund them to make these ideas to come out to the open. Let's say, for example, there is this hackathon that Mara, we actually did that ended yesterday, and it's to help build a payment system for the Masai Mara. I don't know if you've heard of the Masai Maras in Kenya. It's more of like a conservation place, but due to the COVID now, funds stopped coming in as much as it used to. So we did a sort of like hackathon to get youngsters to build a DeFi app that could help aid payments, so that these payments doesn't go to the, should I say, the organizations around it, but directly to the indigenes of the Masai Mara who actually needs these funds to carry out things there to make sure things are running smoothly. So if, and right now, due to the hackathon, these people that build these projects now have proper funding from Celo, and they also have the opportunity to work with Antler, who actually, and other companies who partner with Mara for that hackathon. Now, there are so many other people out there who have one idea or the other, things that they could actually build that would also help, of course, the decentralized world to scale. But they don't have access to the funds to fund like this project that they've built. So I feel if, should I say VCs, be it, and angels, they are more accessible to the youngsters, those with ideas, like real ideas that could help us grow more in Africa, then things would be a lot better.
Awesome. So, I mean, I hear you say educate people, right? By people, who are you referring to? Do you have a niche market? And if you have a niche market, could you just expand on that a bit? And I am keen to hear the Mara story, or to listen to the Mara story. Tell us the Mara story, yeah? Because, I mean, gone are the days where we just see exchanges everywhere. I see that a lot of people are stepping in and, filling out the gap when it comes to education, right? Binance is doing a lot on that front. And then it's interesting to know that Mara is also solving that problem. So what necessitates, okay, I know that, yeah, it's to scale adoption, but there's a story behind Mara, right? So what's the story behind Mara? Who are the people you're looking to influence? And what has the progress been like since you started?
With Admara, the target is majorly Africans, those here in Africa and those in diaspora. Now, we, by people to educate, what I mean is like the newbies, people have no idea about the blockchain. We don't want to just focus on people who already, yes, people already know about it. They have one product or the other that they're already using. So we want to focus on those who we know that, they don't even have a clue about what this is or how it works. So we want to onboard them into the space, educate them, let them know and understand. For Mara, we have the Mara Impact and Ecosystem team, which is actually backed by the Mara Foundation. Now, what we do at the Impact and Ecosystem part of Mara is we have the Mara Academy, and several communities. Now, for the Mara Academy, that's where I said we educate newbies, and we also support decentralized communities in Nigeria, Kenya, and hopefully very soon we'll be coming down to Ghana. So these communities are people who also onboard newbies into the space. So Mara backs these people who want to work with you. Let's see how we can actually help you reach out to these people faster and much more better. We also have, aside the academy, of course, the developers community, like the hackathon, which just happened, which Mara now stood as, should I say, as a middleman to help these developers reach out to companies who are looking out to hire developers for themselves, and also get access to project managers who help manage these blockchain ideas and blockchain applications for devs too. So we have a whole lot, and we're looking into getting a chain. Now, the chain is not just like everyone, we have so many blockchain right now, but the target for our chain is to get Africans who can come and build projects on it to help for social and economic growth.
Awesome, yes. Awesome. Well done, well done. Celo, hi. Okay, so, I mean, I know that there are several stacks to decentralized finance, right? But I am very keen to understand enterprise DeFi in enterprise development. What's your take on that? Could you expand it a bit more? And how can we leverage that here in Africa to solve real life, problems?
Right, thank you. So I've recently started coming across startups that are building enterprise DeFi. And my observation from what they are doing is that their primary target is enterprises and not the individuals. And so they are more on a B2B approach with their marketing and with the kind of services and products that they develop. So we've seen a lot of these ones working in the treasury management and also in yield generation opportunities for these, say, corporate entities, where they would provide services such as custodial services for crypto assets, just making it easier for large institution to be onboarded onto crypto if they expressed an interest or a need to participate in the space. And so some of the services that require would be anywhere from custodial services, they'd also require yield services, treasury management, and others have even gone into portfolio management. And what this does is to expose some of these larger corporate entities into the blockchain and crypto space. And right now it's a growing space as it stands, especially here in Africa. Because many of the companies that have been there previously have just been focusing on the consumer end, but now we are starting to see many of them starting to develop solutions that are targeted towards the corporate entities, all the way into use cases such as lending as well, where you'd find lending protocols that would lend wholesale to last mile lenders, and so they'd offer a better credit rate that would be acceptable to these more institutionalized lending operations that would then lend out in fiat currencies or in just the regular way that people are used to handling it. However, the DeFi aspect is much on the upstream end, where it's largely a business-to-business relationship, but the consumer does not get to experience the crypto user experience, but gets to take on the benefits that come with leveraging DeFi, such as affordable credit options that they'd access.
Awesome. So, I mean, riding on your answer, right, or your answers, I am keen to hear from you what you think would happen to regulations in 5 years, right? Africa in 5 years, where do you see us in terms of regulations, right? Adoption and then regulations. We know that adoption is here. I mean, people are transacting with crypto, whether the government says do it or don't do it, they still transact with crypto, right? So, I mean, they find a way to bypass and do that, but we still have that blocker, which is regulations. What's your take on regulation? Do you think it adds equity to the space, or are you for or against it? Why? And where do you see Africa in 5 years?
Right. So, regulation, as I observe it currently, is being taken on by different countries in their own different and unique ways. For instance, in Kenya, there's a circular that still stands that restricts banks from operating in the crypto space or even transacting with people or other banking crypto businesses. And so that one continues to make the Kenya ecosystem evolve in its own unique way with predominant P2P businesses springing up that would not need to directly interface with banking institutions. On the other hand, there are countries that have adopted a more friendly approach to this crypto regulation, and they would be opening up sandboxes. We have sandboxes in Uganda. From some of our partners, we hear that in Zambia, they also have a clear path to licensing and to joining sandboxes where you can try out your products and have it in the view of the regulators. And so different countries are taking on the question of regulation in a very different way, in their own unique ways. And I think this trend will continue. Now, of course, that introduces a lot of complexity on the continent, and therefore navigating regulation and working with these institutions and organizations becomes really key for anyone who's building in the space. And so at Celo, we have a program we call Celo Jura for people building on Web3 who would want to interface with lawyers and get to learn more about the legal position of what product they're building and the legal position of the services that they'll be offering on Web3. And we've seen that this one has really accelerated the growth of Web3 companies that are able to get professional advice that is very specific to the particular jurisdiction because our legal network covers across the continent. And so you'd get advice for Ghana, advice for Nigeria, seeing that while these markets are in West Africa, they are very different in how they are both approaching the regulatory piece. And so I see that one continuing, or rather that would be my expectation, that they'd continue evolving in different ways, with different countries taking on different positions based on how their financial services ecosystems are growing and the policies that they are setting within those countries.
Awesome. So you are for regulation, right?
Well, it's not that I'm for or against it. These are just the observations that I have for what is happening. And my predictions are largely an expectation of what is going on now.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Sorry I put you on the spot, but I just... All right. So let's talk about DeFi and CeFi again, right? And I mean, just do a comparison, an agility comparison sector-wise. What are the differences, really? You know, there's been this versus DeFi versus CeFi. What's the difference in terms of agility? Let's share that for context.
Yeah, and perhaps it would be good to get what you mean by agility.
So in terms of proficiency, in terms of, you know, solving real-life problems, we know that CeFi was there, and then it was solving a problem. And then all of a sudden, everybody's echoing decentralized finance and all the plenty good things it's going to do, right? But sometimes, when I look at it, I see a cross. And then I look at it, I see that there are a lot of variances. I know these variances. But for the interest of, you know, people who are here today, who are keen to understand these differences, apply them sector-wise. Okay, let's stay within finance, right? What are the differences? What are those varying, you know, contrasts between CeFi and DeFi?
Right. So decentralized finance is very new, and it's approaching solving the financial services issues in very unique ways that largely focus on the more decentralized nature that Web3 offers. And so, of course, payments being one of the first use cases that came up with blockchain and cryptocurrencies. Of course, each of these use cases exists on the more centralized, on the centralized end. And therefore, my observation has been that DeFi is evolving some of these financial services that currently exist into a new shape and form. Right? So for instance, on the lending piece, which I've had the privilege of working quite closely with, the Web3 lending, we do have quite an established lending ecosystem in the different markets and ecosystems that have banks and other lenders that participate in those markets. And so when Web3 lending comes into the play, it's an evolution of that market, attempting to either augment or replace an aspect of what's not currently working well or satisfactorily or efficiently in the centralized services that are being offered, right? So, for instance, we approached this particular lending use case with the aim of reducing the cost of capital by reducing the cost of credit by sourcing cheaper capital from crypto markets, because at the time, while you are able to source debt capital locally in Kenya, the starting rate would be anywhere from 14%, because that's the risk-free return that is expected. And so that makes the cost of capital very high from that point. But in other parts of the world, which are easily accessible through Web3 and blockchain and on the internet, are you able to access some of this capital at very affordable rates, anywhere from 5 to 10% annual. And so what that does is that it offers an opportunity to take some of those cost savings downstream. And so that is one way that DeFi is coming into play that brings real efficiencies in places where the centralized services were not as efficient. However, DeFi still has a lot of room to grow. There's a lot of user experience that needs to be worked on. Identities need to come into play so that some of these lending opportunities can be widely adopted. And also cash in, cash out, the on and off ramps are also developing, and they're also quite a key piece of this infrastructure that's needed to support Web3 or the DeFi pieces, and many of these exist on the centralized side, and it will continue to be an ecosystem where we'll have centralized services and decentralized services, in my observation, just as it is now with many of the decentralized services that are proven being adopted in the more mainstream financial services side. And we have tested this. For instance, we were running an employer lending program where the employer could set up a collateral and have the employees draw down on a salary advance. All this was being done on blockchain protocols. The collateral was set up on a blockchain protocol lending debt capital market called Mula Market, and the contracts were easily accessible via Kotani Pay, and the employees would access these loans quite easily on their phones. They'd get the money in fiat, they'd use it. They would not know that behind this entire system was crypto protocols at play. And so that proved that as these technologies continue to evolve, it will be very easy to bring them into the more mainstream adoption, because user experience is now starting to catch up with what people are currently used to. But in my view, the key pieces when looking at DeFi and the centralized piece is what is DeFi coming to either augment and make better, increase in efficiency, or what is it coming to replace? And that's the place where there's a business opportunity.
Thank you so much, Janelle. So Brian, let's come to you a bit, yeah? So I am very pro regulation. Let me just put it out there. Very pro regulation. I'm keen to stay on regulation a bit more, especially because we are, you know where we're coming from now, how slippery the slope is. Yeah. Do you think that regulation might be a key to scale adoption?
Okay. Personally, I am pro-regulation too, but I have this little fear that you can get regulated to the point where DeFi becomes SeFi at the end of the day. You see, you go through all the process and call yourself a Web3 company, and at the end of the day, you're competing with you're doing the same thing centralized finance companies are doing. So that's why it's a very, very dicey topic. So, but I believe that, regulations will increase adoption, because once the government says that, you can do this, but within the confines of a set of rules, people feel like, since government says that it's safe, let's go ahead. But that's from the consumer perspective. From the builder perspective, you find out that, you follow, let's get regulated, let's follow the rules and regulations. At the end of the day, you're playing by the same rules as centralized finance companies are playing. So at the end of the day, DeFi becomes SeFi, and then you lose it defeats the entire purpose of being a Web3 company, because we are supposed to be faster, smarter. We're supposed to eliminate the middleman. But once you follow regulations, you find that the middleman starts bringing up his head bit by bit. Maybe something happens. Because of this, we're going to start verifying. And then once these verifications come in, like we have to start verifying your transactions, we want to know KYC, we want to know who is dealing with it. Then at the end of the day, you're just like a traditional bank. So I believe regulations will increase adoption, but not too much regulation, so you don't just end up doing the same thing everybody else is doing. I also want to add that for the builders, I have a lot of respect for people building, but I'm very worried that at the end of the day, we're building a Web3 for everything that already exists, and and by the time we actually get to work, we realize that we're playing by the same rules, and at the end of the day, we're just like every other person. So I think that we should start building. We should start solving more problems. If you ask around, if you look at everybody that is here, I can say 80% or 90%. I don't want to be too rash. everybody here is doing some payment solution or other. While I feel that, the market is still very large. There are not enough payment solutions in Africa. Yeah, but I feel like at some point, diversification has to come in because some people, everybody wants to pay quickly, pay faster. But still, there are other stuff that we can do with Web3. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, so let's stay on that a bit, sorry. So you're pro-regulation, I'm pro-regulation too. Let's be vocal about these things. You never know who is really watching, really. You never know who is watching. And I think conferences that like this are meant to, pass a message. You never really know who is watching. Per you, now, this is you. What are the lowest hanging fruits to regulation? I feel like the space, government sits this way and that way because they really don't know where to start from, right? And I do think that we can borrow a leaf from my thoughts, right? I feel that we can borrow a leaf from practitioners, industry practitioners who are building things already in crypto, right? Hear from them, understand what they're building, understand the kind of problems they're solving, and then start to tweak policies around that kind of governs the space, especially from a consumer protection standpoint. Now, coming back to you, what are those tips that you think we can leave on the table today that helps them, start to, in events that, because I think regulation it will happen, right? It will happen. What are the first few things you think that the government should pay attention to actually sanitizing the space?
Okay, I'll take you to Nigeria. People have this general misconception that crypto is banned in Nigeria. No, actually, it's the banks that are banned from facilitating crypto transactions. Yep. So, in order for us to, and funny part is when that law or that policy went into effect sometime around early 2021, transactions in Nigeria went up. Okay, P2P volume blew up. So, the average Nigerian is a rebel. Oh, this thing that government does not want. Looks like it's cool, but then the other part of the Nigerians are also people that are afraid. Like, if government says it's bad, then it is bad. So it's either, there's no, in Nigeria, there are no there are no people that, nobody sits on the fence. It's either you're here, or there's either, I must do this thing. Now that government says it's bad, I want to break the law, or government says it's bad, I'm staying away from it. So I think for us to make progress, companies like ours and other people right here into crypto and stuff, we need to continue to engage. Like you said, adoption, regulation will definitely happen, but we need to continue to have discussion. So I think that yes, we attend tech events like too. We should also, when we attend tech events like, we should also invite government people to come, and so we can have these discussions with them. Okay, we'll make concessions. Okay, we're willing to give this, we're willing to let this happen. There's no company here, I'm very sure, that doesn't have some level of KYC. We are willing to do all of that. And we just want to know when it's enough, because we just want to know how far, when it's enough that we can say, okay, we've done our part. Where does it get better for us? And the sad thing is that in this industry, there's a lot of politics, you see. I do not think that traditional banks will ever be comfortable with crypto, because, especially DeFi, because for real, if I'm sending 1,000 Bitcoins to somebody via DeFi, I'm paying less than 0.00001% charge. And let's convert that to dollars, and I'm trying to send that fiat to another person. Oh my God, the banks will be happy because of the transaction charge. So, and banks need this money to survive, but with DeFi, it's different. So I don't think that banks are going to fold their hands and allow us take over, because we offer a better service, a faster service, a cheaper service. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. So that's why I said there's politics, because banks are talking to governments, say, don't let these people close. They are going to take all our jobs. We're going to, and yeah, we're seeing that happen. At some point before the bank ban in Nigeria happened, the previous year we had the lowest turnout in volume in Nigerian banks, because everybody was moving to crypto. So they are trying to survive. Banks do not have like a store of money where they keep and say, this is our money. They make money from our own transactions. So if you take that away from them, they're going to fight. So, and that's the fight we're facing right now. So we need to also find a way to talk to government and say, okay, we're willing to do this, we're willing to do that. But while we're doing this, we should be careful not to become the regular banks. So that's it.
Thank you very much. So I have one last question for you, Mara, Sarah. I keep calling you Mara. Sarah, before we give room to people in the audience to ask questions. What do you think would be the biggest trend in blockchain in the next 12 months? I see new things. I wake up, there's NFT. I wake up tomorrow, there's Web 5.0.
Yeah.
I wake up again, there's Web 7.0. I can't even keep up. So what do you think would be the biggest trends in the coming 12 months?
Okay, like you said, the blockchain space, especially decentralized finance, is filled with trends, like to the extent that people are unable to keep up. Like, you wake up today, you're seeing NFTs, and the moment you say, okay, let me start a session on NFTs, let me switch into NFTs, you go to your bedroom and you're back, you are seeing something else, exactly, hype around the metaverse, and like, what exactly is going on? Yeah. For me, I think for the next couple of months, the trends will be tied around one, real yield. Like, people are tired of the regular Ponzi farming and staking that everyone knows about. But right now, there are some protocols like GMX and a couple of them that they've seen something called real yield, where people, when they stake, they get to earn a certain percentage from the revenue of that protocol. Now, and these revenues that the people earn, they are usually denominated by either Ethereum or USDC. So real yield would soon become a thing because right now some people are actually trying to fork that, the codes of GMX on that aspect. That's one. Secondly, I think it will be on the gaming part. Like, yes, I'm sure we've been hearing of play to earn. Yeah. Exactly. But right now, I think what people are actually, like builders, they are looking into is play and earn, no longer play to earn. Now, the play and earn in the sense that people don't want those shabby games that we've been saying, but that's why you see most gamers, like real gamers, they'll tell you they're not interested in blockchain games because what people have been building so far, the bad interface, like you play a game but you don't enjoy it because you just want to earn at the end of the day. But right now, more gamers, like I don't know if you've noticed that recently, a lot of news have been coming up about DeFi protocols who have been partnering with and collaborating with some Web2 games, and like they are trying to buy them off. Yes, a couple of them. And that's because they've seen that, what people actually want is a game that they get to play and they enjoy it. Like, it's something that they can actually relate with. So right now, I think in the DeFi world and in the blockchain space, the play and earn is going to really be a big thing. And the last one, people want something that has to do with their day-to-day activities, like step in this in Q2 this year, even amidst the beard season. We saw StepN raising up to, I think they made up to like $122.5 million. Now imagine, and that was because they didn't create a project just for crypto natives. It was even people that are not into crypto, they were able to earn from StepN. So if we can get more of that, like right now in the coming months, things that people could actually relate with in their day-to-day life activities, then we'll see that it's going to blow off massively.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you so much, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure, a blessing, in fact, sharing the stage with you.
Hello, everyone. Just a contribution. These things are interesting to attend, but it makes no sense when you don't call your regulators, because you must carry them along. I work at the Central Bank of Nigeria. I'm not here on behalf of the Central Bank. I'm here on my own, because I found it and I said, oh, let's see what they're talking about. But you can't escape regulation, regardless of what you're building. No matter how brilliant it is, our mandate is to make sure there's financial stability. So we can't let you run on your own. You can't do that. Invite your central banks, invite the regulators, and get them into these conversations. Otherwise, you will be stopped in your tracks. And you're doing amazing work, but get your regulators on board. Let them have these conversations with you.
We hear you. We hear you. Thank you so much. All right, that will have to wrap it up. But thank you so much for the amazing moderation and the very fierce, conversations that we have on regulations. I knew it was going to be hot, but this has been spiced up by the lady in the crowd. Thank you so much. I think you can make your way out of the stage now.